Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Kalaga, Executive Creative Director of the New York Times live conversation series Times Talks, and our new film series Screen Times, which hosts exclusive screenings of the most anticipated movies, TV shows, documentaries, indies, and more. I'm delighted to welcome you to tonight's post-screening conversation with the director of Tully, Jason Reitman, and its star, Charlize Theron. Moderating the conversation and all events in our Screen Time series is veteran Times contributor and self-proclaimed film fanatic, Logan Hill. Now please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Logan Hill, Jason Reitman, and Charlize Theron.
Hey, join me.
All right. Let's talk. It's my record scratch.
Yeah, that was great. It's this sound I always swear I'd never put in a movie. Oh, hey.
Hi.
It sounds like there are people out there. I can't see any of you though. Lights are so bright. Thank you all for coming. This is our series Screen Times. And has Tom already done his intro? I believe he has. Yep. So we're really happy you're here because this is we're going to be launching this regularly. We're going to be doing 12 of these this year, and the goal is to have 11 more films that are like nearly as good as this one. Because we really love this movie, and we're really happy that you two are here.
Thanks.
And since there's nothing to talk about in this film, we have nothing to discuss. But you have already been on tour with the film at various festivals, doing some tastemaker screenings and sneak peeks. What has that been like so far? You're getting crazy. What are the reactions like?
It's been kind of lovely. People seem to, I've had the experience now of films that people like and films that people don't, and it's so much more fun when they like it.
How many people think they saw the twist coming?
I've never thought of it as a twist.
Yeah.
I've always thought of Tully as like looking at one of those ventricular posters, ventricular, where if you move your head just a couple inches, the poster changes to another image. And that's what this is. It's a movie where, for the vast majority of it, you think you're watching one film, and then in its closing moments, you realize you've actually been watching two movies simultaneously. This is your third film with Diablo Cody. I'm so curious for you. You knew you were in on the conceit of the film from the beginning. It sounds like you had conversations with Diablo from the early days. At what point did you read the script? Were you handed a full, complete script, or did you know what the concept was?
Yeah. I think when Diablo sent it to you, he sent it to me.
Yeah, I just forwarded it to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you were aware of where it was going, I guess my question.
Yes. Jason and I, we talk. We're friends. We've been dying to get back on a set together since Young Adult, and yeah. That's kind of been the all-consuming conversation that we've been having all these years, and he just kind of hit me with the two-liner pitch that Diablo gave him, which now that you guys have seen it was basically just if a younger self could come and rescue you, what would that be like? And that was very intriguing to me. And when Diablo sent him the script, he sent it to me, and I said, when and where.
And you were talking for years. So what kind of projects come across your lap? And you guys sound like you had an ongoing discussion of many different things. What didn't feel like the right fit before you found this one?
Well, I was going to do Atomic Blonde with no fighting, and
talk them to death.
Yeah. She was going to gain a lot of weight. It was going to be a really talky version of it. They just have conversations about their differences.
And I said, no. We didn't. We did. There was really nothing else that we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the first thing, and I think by now we kind of know each other so well that was when you heard it, you kind of thought of me and
Yeah.
knew that I would be interested in it.
It feels kind of like a band now too, you know.
That makes us sound way too cool.
They can see us. They know better.
In what way though? Like, does it like a band? Do you have your falling outs? Do you learn how to work with each other in different ways?
I guess in that way it's not. Okay, sorry, my metaphor sucks. No, but look, Diablo and I met 12 years ago. And what I didn't know at the time was I had just met a lifelong storytelling partner. There was going to be a marriage of some kind, and that every 5 years we were going to make another movie. And then we'd be kind of continuing this diary together. And on the second film, we found our muse.
I'm the second wife, like sister wives.
Yeah.
Yes.
The luckiest man on earth.
Yes.
And
I am Diablo's sister wife.
And there's no response to that. And Charlize just is the voice of those films now. So I don't know.
And there's been some talk about this being sort of a cycle, that there are 3 films with Diablo that sort of touch on different points in a woman's life, but also the two of you are kind of growing up with each other and hitting different points in your lives. Does this film represent sort of concerns and things you're thinking about right now, as opposed to the other films where you're thinking about those issues at that point?
I mean, I think the connective tissue between Juno Young Adult and this film is that they all deal with this concept of where are we on our timeline? Juno is about growing up too quickly. Young Adult is about growing up too slow. This film is about that moment when you become a parent, and not only do you have to kind of close a chapter on your life, but you almost start to think of your younger self almost as a different human being. And that seems to be an idea that has consumed all 3 of us, is this concept of, am I too late for something? Am I too early for something? Am I just not at the right time? Did I miss the on-ramp to life? Was I not given the rule books? I kind of think of teen pregnancy and motherhood to be locations to discuss a much larger idea about how we rarely feel comfortable about where we are at any given moment.
And Charlize, for you, does that jibe with you? Do you think that rings true?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting and a little strange. We're all the same age, around the same age. We come from very different backgrounds, very different circumstances, and yet for some reason we share a very, very similar sense of humor. And when the 3 of us get around a table, there's just something that each one of us brings to it that makes the other one better. And I think there's nothing more you can ask for in a creative relationship, because I think ultimately what you're always searching for is that other person that can take you to that next level. And I feel that Diablo and Jason does that for me.
I mean, that was the delight of when we met for the first time. You told me a really dirty joke, and
You want to repeat it now?
No, I can't. And
It's not me.
it was like,
That wasn't me.
oh,
It's probably Kate Winslet. It's not me.
she also has a filthy mouth.
She does. She's filthy. You have a thing for filthy actresses. But that's how we knew. That's how we knew.
Yeah, well, when you,
Yeah.
that was the moment where I went, oh, you're one of us. And no, it's the truth. And then the thrill was, oh, why hasn't this essential element of this incredible actress been showcased properly on screen? And then it got really exciting because I knew, oh, we're gonna be able to do this, and there's gonna be kind of an unveiling of this side of her, and we'll be able to do multiple movies this way.
Charlie's never seen a mother quite like this on screen before. What appealed to you about this part that you hadn't seen elsewhere?
You know, when Jason sent me the script, my second kid was around 6, 7 months old, and I literally had just moved her out of my bedroom. and she was kind of sleeping through the night, and I was kind of becoming a human being again. And I had a 3-year-old at the time too that was expecting me to, be a person and be there when she needed me. So when I read it, it just felt very familiar to me. And I just felt like maybe as a mother more than an actress or somebody that's worked in this industry for so long, I had this overwhelming sensation when I read the script that there were tiny little things, even though my circumstances are so different from Marlowe's, that just made me feel like I wasn't alone. And it's a really powerful thing when something so out of your world can make you, on a human level, connect on that way. And this story, which is very personal to Diablo's story, just made me feel like, okay, I'm not alone. Like, there are things about being a parent that are so unbelievable, and there are things about being a parent that are so fucking shitty. And nobody ever talks about that. And it makes me feel like I should have shame around that. And this film made me feel like, oh, it's okay. It's okay to be truthful about the whole experience so that ultimately you can get to that place where you're like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. But it goes through valleys and lows.
Is there something to both of you that feels timely about this film, given, we've always had sort of laundry commercials and happy movies and soft-focused stories about parenting, but right now sort of the hashtag blessed sort of world of parenting, the hashtag mommy world, the mommy bloggers, and the sort of lifestyle people sort of selling more and more expensive bugaboos that you see on the street. Does it seem like this is sort of counter-programming that other kind of glossiness we're getting?
Oh, what do you think?
Listen, I think that Jason said this a while back, and it really hit home to me because it just put it all into perspective. And it's the idea that we live in a world where we share everything. It's really bizarre. Whether it's through social media or reality television, we know what medication everybody is taking. We know what's happening in everybody's bedroom. But for some reason, when it comes to this subject, we're still it's covered in stigma. Like, there is still so much shame around just being honest about what it really takes to raise a child or several children. And I think it's false advertising. It is, because nobody can do it perfectly. Nobody. There is nobody out there that does it perfectly. And until we can actually have that conversation, I think we're gonna live in this kind of shadow of what it really takes to be a parent. And that's such a shame, because raising kids is the most incredible thing that you will ever do. But unless you can share it and talk about it truthfully, it takes away the specialness of it. Like, I know my relationship to my kids and the whole experience of raising my kids is as emotionally embedded in me because of all of the hardship.
And when you said about putting that on screen, I'm so curious about sort of the process of that. Like, there's so many cliches around parenting. Like the montage that begins this film, or that's early on in this film, is very different from the other parenting montages you see. It's a couple of awkward nights, and then things settle down very quickly. But this one, there's something grating and harsh and aggressive about that montage that is really hard to watch, and felt like PTSD for me as a dad.
I mean, well, overpopulation is a real problem. And
We're taking care of it. You're welcome.
we wanted it to feel accurate. All of us are parents. And I feel like I've seen that movie a million times, where the dad picks up the baby and the baby pees on him. And you're right.
That's so cute.
There's still time to cut it in. And it's just, parenting is often handled in a very slapstick kind of way, almost like we're scared of it. So we all agreed early on that we wanted this portrayal to feel like a mirror. We wanted people to look up the screen and see themselves. So we started asking the cast, asking the crew. I asked a set of mothers, new mothers that were friends of mine, to fill out a questionnaire that I created, looking for any type of detail that I hadn't seen before. So there was an assistant props person who said that he used to put his baby on top of the dryer while it was going to untumble dry to try to get the baby to fall asleep. I'd never heard that one before. Way too many moms told me that they had dropped their cell phone on their babies' faces. That apparently is an epidemic.
And cell phones are getting bigger too. It's only getting more dangerous.
By the way, not just babies. My hairdresser just dropped a cell phone on himself trying to take a selfie. So I'm just saying, it's not just a baby thing.
But we want it to feel real. I mean, that's it. And I think one of the exciting thing about working together is that's what we're going for every day. We never have conversations about what's funny. We have conversations about authenticity and what's real, and that starts with the dialogue, and we start talking about hair, we start talking about wardrobe. We get to the house, we feel out the house. Everything is a constant dialogue about how to make everything feel as real as possible.
I'm curious that there's conversations you're all having with other parents as you're making this, because I think we all think we're very special parents especially when we have our first child. You know, that we're kind of experiencing this very unique thing that nobody quite gets, and then that changes as you meet other parents and you realize, oh, we're having the same issues but different. What were those conversations like as you're working on this? I'm curious. It does feel like there is a whole world of unexplored territory here.
One of the things that was really revealing was not just these kinds of details like dropping the cell phone on the baby. What I got the sense was that no one was asking them these questions. No one was asking for honesty, and you know, I reached out to 10 or 12 moms specifically, and I asked a bunch of questions, and they emailed them back to me. And what was striking was how revealing they were, and how much they shared not only about what it was like to raise a child and the details of that, but how they felt like failures. How they, in the middle of the night, thought that they were getting something wrong, how on a daily basis people made them feel like they were doing something wrong, that it had affected their relationship with their husband, it had affected their sex lives. And the fact that they shared this with me told me a lot about the fact that they need to be listened to. And that played into the relationship with Tully. That's what makes it so important that the door opens, and here comes this young woman, and she walks inside and says, I forgive you for who you are. I think you're doing a great job. I think your kid's amazing. I think you're beautiful. I think for the things you need help with, let me help you with them. And it kind of really taught me about that relationship.
And I wonder, sort of as a father.
That was beautiful, by the way.
Thanks. I'm a softie.
Is there some parallel in some sense of between your experience of learning more about motherhood and sort of the idea that all dads never quite get it, right? Like that Ron Livingston's not his character is not the worst father imaginable. He's helping with the homework a little, but he's very typical of a certain kind of dad who probably thinks he's doing a much better job than he is. Did you realize that along the way that there were blind spots that your dads didn't know about? Postpartum depression, I wonder if that's one of them.
I think dads are pretty used to doing about 10% of the work and taking 90% of the credit and feeling pretty good about themselves. But I never thought of his character as an evil character. I remember I brought it up to Diablo. I said, do you think people are not going to like this guy? And she said, no, I think it's a pretty accurate portrayal. I think Peyopo will look at screen and be like, yeah, I recognize that. And we cast a very likable actor. We cast a guy who it's kind of impossible to hate. And what became important to me was, to all of us was, okay, yes, he's present, he cares about his kids, he's working, but he's also, spending time with them. But more important was, how do we establish this marriage? A marriage that's gone cold, a marriage that's gone quiet. Not a marriage in its first moments when it's all exciting, not a marriage that's in the middle of falling apart, but that middle ground where you don't want to rock the boat. You're not talking quite as much. You get in bed at the end of the day and you each pull out your iPads or your books and you kind of stick to yourselves. How can we make that feel as real as possible?
And so, performance-wise, how do you make that feel as real as possible?
I didn't sleep with Ron Livingston. We didn't have sex.
That was big of you. I thought...
It was hard. He's hot. But I love his wife. I think that there was very little, we didn't have, I think you had some concern up front, but then while we were shooting the film, we really never had that much concern. And Ron was so incredible because he really never questioned what that character was supposed to do. And he had no ego around it. And that's that's a big ask sometimes on a film where it's surrounded by women and it's really like the women's story, and for a guy to kind of like come in and take that role and do it in a way that had integrity and had truth to it,
Yeah.
and wasn't a caricature. He was so authentic with it, and it came from a place within his heart. You know, and he's a real father. Our kids, ironically, go to the same school. So I have known him for a while before we started making this film, and I was really happy when Jason cast him, because I was like, oh, I know Ron. I see him at school drop-offs every morning. And he's such a dad. Like, he is, and he's a very different dad, and I think every dad's story is a little bit different. This is not saying this is every father, but I do think that in a social idea, we have allowed the norm to be that the father is out having to maybe travel for work and is the breadwinner, especially in a time like that, even though Marla does have a job, but that's kind of like the social norm. And that is changing a little bit, and I know fathers who are taking the reverse on that. But it is, I mean, when I look at him and I'm like, his job takes him away that much. He is traveling a lot. When he comes back, he tries to do homework with the kids, but he's not there all the time. And he might not understand or ask as many questions as she might want, or have as much empathy. And yes, he might go to the bedroom to want to just fucking escape and play a video game. I've done that with the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Like, I have closed my door and just literally watched a reality show to just escape. And so I can't judge that at all. I have complete empathy towards that. I think it's a bigger thing than just fathers in general. It's a bigger thing that we have to kind of look at, is like what we've kind of accepted as the norm. And to not be judgmental. I never wanted this to be a judgmental, I don't think any of us ever wanted this to be like judgmental on fathers. I think he's a really good dad. He's doing the best that he can. Maybe he could have asked 2 more questions, you know. But other than that, he's a good man, and she really married the man that she was supposed to marry, and she knows that, and that to me was always so beautiful, that she still talked about him that way.
And this film, when I saw this film, I did not expect it to become controversial. Today, the New York Times, we ran a story about the reaction to this film's depiction of postpartum depression, or at least that was sort of the response. Ann Smith, the president of Postpartum Support International, said the mommy world is up in arms. I can see why there's a lot of anger out there, and I think they have a right to it. Largely, that seems was based on the trailer, but there, the response is also to the story of people who love this film and think it's very fair, and they identified with your portrayal. Were you surprised by that response, and how are you kind of processing that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say, I shared this with Jason, I was really impressed with how Diablo handled that. And I don't know if any of you have read it, but I think the greater question came from a lot of these groups as to like, why wasn't this handled in kind of like a medical way? And Diablo's answer to that was that she really wrote this from a human place, from her own experience, and that this was really truly her experience, and that you cannot eliminate that from somebody. Like, that is her story, and she's not trying to tell everybody else's story. She's only writing from a place of what she experienced. And that's a valid place to write from. That's a valid reason to make a film. Her story counts as much as everybody else's story out there. And she's open to everybody else telling their story. So make more movies about this. Like, she's open to that. But this is really her story, and I'm really grateful for her sharing that with us, with me.
I do think this is sort of a cycle we see often with films that are the first film on a particular topic. People expect it to kind of hold water for a whole range of experiences, but this is more specific than that, I suppose.
Yeah, and she's admitted to it openly. She's like, I'm not an expert. I just know, she wrote this when she had her 3rd child, and this was a real experience for her. She needed to do this as like a therapeutic outpouring of a means to her survival. And I so admire that. And, I just hope that we don't kind of like crush that in the midst of like, what is the accuracy of a woman going through this experience and how we should handle that in like the medical terms of what it is. This is just a human story. It's her story. And I hope we can celebrate that.
Nicely said.
And I'll do a
Thank you.
spoiler alert here too. We have some people watching on our live stream. We're going to talk about some stuff at the end of the movie. So if you hate spoilers, you should probably close your browser. But I am curious
We
about.
kind of have been time. I mean, that would have been a
Yeah,
nice
I know.
warning
I should have said it earlier.
earlier.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
Jeez.
felt like we were just talking about this audience. I fucked it up. Sorry.
No.
I thought it was just this audience.
There's,
Well,
lots
I
of
said
people
something
online.
that could really spoil it. You
We're
should
sorry.
edit that. Oh,
I
it's a
should've edited
live? It's a live stream?
Live stream going on.
Fuck!
Look, while we're here.
Shit, I
there's-
didn't know that. I'm so sorry.
No, there's
I did not
something-
know that.
There's something I've been wanting to say about the end of Citizen Kane for a long time, and
I did not. Nobody told me that. I thought it was just this audience.
No. By the way, I did it with the whole fancy pants ventricular poster pretentious answer.
Oh, you started it?
Yeah. And,
Fancy
yeah.
I had no idea it was a live stream. Hypnotize him.
The Men in Black.
The Men in
stick.
Black pen. Yeah.
But now we're on the topic. I'm wondering, I saw an earlier version of this. It was a little bit different from this one, and I'm curious, sort of, as you sort of perfectly calibrated this character as you worked through it. What did you learn from the process itself and screening it for people? And
We screened at Sundance in January, and I just had this experience while watching the audience. In the original cut, there's the moment in which Ron says Tully, T-U-L-L-Y, and that's obviously a very revealing moment. And we originally cut immediately into the hospital room where Marlo and Tully say goodbye to each other. And it didn't give the audience any time. They were having to go through a mental process of, now wait, who was in the bed? And they're doing all this mental math when they should be having an emotional scene where they watch one character say goodbye to the other. So I went back into the Avid. It's funny, I'm actually cutting another movie right now, and I put Tully back into the Avid with the other movie, which made me kind of want to do like a Marvel Infinity War thing, but that made no.
Do it.
All right, we'll do it.
the other one has Gary Hart, so it would have been right. In the
Awesome
Gary Hart story,
is what you were going to say.
Would have been awesome.
And I just realized if we put together a sequence of Marlo alone at home, it would be this. It would kind of confirm this idea that she was alone the whole time, and there's something kind of heartbreaking and beautiful about that. And it'd be this moment where you could kind of go through the process of thinking, oh yeah, that's right, she was alone, and go from your brain and back into your heart. By the time you see, you alone at the bar. So by the time we're back in the hospital room and you guys are actually saying goodbye, we've gone back to the right place.
Playing a character who's had this kind of a break, does it change the way you approach her in the moment, or you just approach her? On some level, are you thinking that she knows who she's speaking to?
I never treated it that way.
Yeah.
I kind of went the fantasy way. I feel like that's the world that Marlo's in. I don't think she has an awareness of really what's going on. And so I really treated that. And there was a lot of conversations between Mackenzie and Jason that was like, well, and I just kind of eliminated from that conversation and really didn't engage that much into that, because to me, she was real. She was there up until the last 2 minutes of the movie. And that's kind of how I always treated it. So they had to figure out the logistics of it. And I tried to be helpful, but I really, as a performer, just treated it as like she was really there.
Yeah, dialing that sort of up and down, how much she was going to be revealed to say the husband. It must have been tricky. I think it's only the one scene, the one bedroom scene, right, where we see the two of them in the same room together. How was it, for instance, putting together the sex scene?
Look, sex scenes are always tricky, but you just you treat it like choreography and try to remind people to stay in the moment the way they would in any other scene. Honestly, the interesting thing to me about the sex scene and the scenes after it were, as a filmmaker, you're often just trying to make the audience comfortable. You're trying to make the audience feel like they know where they are. You present a world, you present a tone, characters, location, film, and you want the audience to be like, oh yeah, we're all in the same car. We know where we're going. We're on the road. This is good. And
then you fuck them up.
Yeah, and then, an hour into this movie, you're like, all right, I know what movie I'm watching. All right, cool. And then we kick you out of the car. And now, you're like, wait, where are we? And it's a scary thing as a director to know that you're going to purposely kick the audience out of the car and hope that a half hour later, they're going to get back in. So rather than, this is going to be where the three of them are in bed, I think that's actually kind of simple. That's more just about being in the moment and making it real for what was real for all three of them. And, this is who you should have eye contact with. But the larger question was, okay, how do we build the film so that when you all go see it for like the second and the third and the fourth or the fifth time in the theaters,
We're smart.
It continues to build. The experience starts to change. That the next time you see this film, you watch it over Mackenzie's shoulder. And she walks in the door, and you have a woman in her 20s who's going, what happens in my life? Who do I marry? What are my kids like? What do I do for a living? What is my house like? How is my marriage? Are we happy? And that was her direction. And all of her construction was built in a way so that you could dissect it as much as you want. All her wardrobe. All of her wardrobe choices were based on things that Marla would have enjoyed when she was younger. So the first time you meet Mackenzie, she's wearing Winona Ryder's outfit from Reality Bites, the jeans and the orange tank top. And then the next time you see her, she's in this overalls that Kate Moss wore in a Calvin Klein ad. And the next time you see her, it's like My So-Called Life. And then even if you look at their body language, where they are in the scene, often Marla will start someplace in the scene. She'll be sitting in a booth, and Mackenzie will enter. And by the end of the scene, Mackenzie's in the exact same position in the booth when Marla has exited. Even the way she arrives at the house. First time she knocks on the door. The next time she seems to have keys or something. She just can waltz right in. Next time she's just kind of popping in from frame left like a ghost. So I think the exciting thing about the construction was how do we build something so that every time you watch it, it's a movie that kind of slowly unveils to you.
Jason sent me this text out of nowhere. He's like, what are the top 10 movies that you loved as a teenager? I had no idea what was behind it, but that was what was behind it. And then I remember on the day that we shot that sex scene, it's really subtle and beautiful, so that's why you should go see it another time. But it's when we go up the staircase, we start as two, and he shoots it through this kind of dappled glass, and as we're going up, we become one, and you only see one body going up into the room. And that was the one thing that kind of got me through that whole scene, because I was like, what? Am I really doing this? And he was like, it's you. Like, you're going up the stairs. You're doing this. It's okay. It was little things like that that just really kind of grounded the whole thing for me. I'm so grateful.
I like that we've done 2 sex scenes now. Young adult, where we had to choreograph a sex scene where Patton Oswalt had only one working leg.
And I was wearing nylons.
And you were
really
crying.
hard to penetrate.
And you were like crying.
And I was bawling my eyes out. Very hard to penetrate with nylons on.
And now this one.
We're pros now.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Well, I can vouch for the fact I saw a lot of things the second time watching it, so that I hadn't noticed the first time. All these little details and lines of dialogue and things that are just
That's
wonderful.
all him. You and Eric really sought that stuff out. It's really beautiful.
Well, and that's our time. We really thank you all for coming. Thank you so much.
Wait, you didn't ask me about getting fat? I gotta leave before this gets any worse. I love you. I fucking love you. Thanks, guys.